Two of the top premium SUVs fight it out. The BMW X3 recently facelifted against the Mercedes GLC in the all-new generation, here with Thomas now to go through for you in 4K full screen, full length. Let's go. The X3, well, it's been there quite a while on this generation, but with a facelift, new front grille here, vertical fins, really strong styling. This also has the M Sport package. So we have the black accentuation in the low part and a stronger intake right here. Both have LED spec. You can get different LED specs, and interesting how they have totally different signatures here for the LED. The GLC also in the comparable AMG line today. That means also sporty air intakes right here. And it now also comes with this micro star pattern, a really beautiful feature. So to me, from the front, they're both very beautiful. It's just different design philosophy. What's your take? Tell me in the comments. With 4.72 m or 186 inches, the new GLC has grown a little bit if you compare it to the predecessor, and now it's basically at the same length like the BMW X3, just a centimeter difference. And the design language is completely different here, especially the GLC, more this round shape here overall. Interesting sidestep. They not only look cool, but also serve aerodynamics, but you might get trousers dirty or something when they are dirty as well. 19-inch wheels, winter tires, comparable also to 19-inch wheels, winter tires for the BMW. We also have painted wheel arches in the vehicle color, both white here today, a great comparison for sure. M Sport Pack means M badge here, and here also this this breather element, because in this case it's not a real air breather, just a design element. And then we have here also black around the windows. And you can see the difference in design language once again, where you have more curved in, more angular features with the X3. The question is, which one do you prefer? I think both are beauty in themselves, I have to say. Front was both, very appealing. Side, I think, that's a little bit more, angular, sporty styling. I would prefer the X3. What about the rear? In the rear, we can see big design differences. Here with the GLC, more this round shape raindrop design, I would call it. New style for tail lamps, and in lower part, out of crew, fake exhaust police alert, because these are clearly just visual tips. With the X3, a more rectangular design, a sportier approach. With the recent facelift, also new tail lamp design here. This is a very cool thing, and really always tells you, hey, this is an X3, that you can also distinguish it against the smaller brother, the X1 or something. With the M Sport Pack, you also get the black accentuation in the lower part, a diffuser style, and these are real exhaust in this case. Which one is the favorite for you in the rear? Tell me. Acceleration figure, by the way, just a little bit over 6 seconds for both, but difference on the US market won't be that much because of the emission rules in the European Union. This is a little bit detuned, so there is then a bigger difference in acceleration. So the GLC, a little bit quicker, a little bit more horsepower here with the spec GLC 300 against the X-Drive 30i. And the very interesting technology detail is the rear axle steering, up to 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction than the front wheels. This comes together in the package with air suspension, and the air suspension and the rear axle steering, this is actually special to the GLC. The X3 does not have it, just a normal adaptive suspension. And the cool thing is here, with the rear axle steering, it reduces the turning circle by about a meter, because this here goes 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction. Isn't it funny that in the key fob comparison here, the Mercedes, again, all the way round, central shape, and the BMW more angular shape. So the design on the exterior is also reflected in the key fobs. I like that, actually. Here, Mercedes dog-trotting sound, actually quite solid. And then inside of the doors, in the new generation, it's all about the looks, definitely. Therefore, very sleek and also clean. But then again, functionality-wise, this one does not get feedback anymore with controlling the seat. One button design here for seat heating and memory function. So visually, it looks cool at first then, but when you look closer then, maybe I even prefer the previous generation. But the ambient lighting integration is awesome here, also around the air vents. So the Mercedes interior is more really about, look here, what we got, more this wow effect. AMG line means also the horizontal spokes at the steering wheel. And in this case here, there is an animal skin spec on the seat, but there's a lot of Artico, for example, the high-grade leatherette available also for the Mercedes. They have good choices there. Seating position here in the GLC, I would say it is fairly comfortable, yes, but I wouldn't say it's ideal for tall people. So I think the seat ergonomics is not top of the game. So when you're taller, you feel like sitting more on the seat than in the seat. However, just the cockpit around you, that is more caging you in actually. So not too much space above your head. It's okay with 189 or 6'2". But overall seat ergonomics, I think the GLC will not win today. You won't get back pain or something, but I think Mercedes has to work on the ergonomics. Interior setup with the Mercedes here, everything very central with these round lines. Nice wood insert, but a lot of high gloss black here. But I really like the air vents as for the illumination. But here, that's again seen it with the C-Class. It's not straight, you know, they're not like, you know, they should be like this. But yeah, build quality wise here on the inside, just these knobs, not that ideal. And the temperature is always controlled in the screen right here. Yeah, so no real dials as for that. But it has also here a lot more interesting features. Here, for example, in this off-road view, we can also go to this off-road camera, and then you have a see-through bonnet. The image is being built up, and now I can see what's going on underneath, not with the live feed. The live feed is around. The feed underneath is then basically built up by the live feed before, and then I can exactly see what's underneath. So that's a very cool feature. Here, once again, close up how I control the temperature and the main infotainment system. This is the map. It's somewhat also responsive, yes. And then you can go to the main menu like this. Good overview actually, and the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto is also then available as the wireless. Only thing that is cool here with the vents, you have this feature that the air vents turn red or blue depending on the color changes. Digital instruments, where we can also see the consumption, 9 liters, 100 kilometers for the GLC, 26 mpg US, 31 mpg UK there would be. And then here we can also, for example, have full screen GPS map, car internally though, or for example this great off-road gauge. This is, yeah, the most fancy one for sure. And you also get a head-up display. How does it work on the steering wheel? You slide here, for example, for the volume. It looks clean and fancy, but for controlling it, always better to have a feedback. There is some kind of feedback when you press this here, but you see here is like one button fits it all basically. So one button, but then different capacitive areas. This middle console here is full of high gloss black, so yeah, not my favorite one. Underneath you have cup holders. They are not that much securing the bottles though. Then I here, for example, have a cable connected, because in the front you have 2 USB-C chargers. And I always like this split opening here for the armrest with more charging underneath. Now to the rear. Same design here. Of course, inside of the door is also interesting because they use a lot of, you know, also here like leather material, soft touch everything, and looks cool from the ambient light integration. Legroom, however, when I'm driving here as a tall person, barely fits actually, so not that much legroom. It works with the recess here, and headroom is actually no problem. It's decently comfortable, but also kind of stiff from the seats. Looking forward to the comparison to the X3, and in the middle part you can also sit, but very limited also as for the legs. So if you go compare it also to the GLB brother, by the way, has approximately the same length, but just has more space on the interior. The GLC is more this upmarket SUV in the Mercedes lineup, and also, you know, with more power and more luxury features and so on, rear-axle steering, whereas the GLB is more like this family space on the inside. But what about the comparison here, GLC versus X3? This will also be very interesting here for the rear. Switching to the BMW, door closing sound, also solid, maybe a little bit better probably. Then inside of the doors, also soft touch material, also clean design and so on. Here is real haptic feedback for the seat control directly at the seat actually, and the seat itself also available now here. Of course, it's a standard thing, perforated sensor tech, and this is, you know, also with breathability, great quality, and also animal free. This one also the M Sport steering wheel here. Steering heating control is right here. With the GLC you have to use the voice command, or it's just combined with the seat heating actually. Seating position, somewhat comparable. I feel that the BMW X3 gives you a little bit more SUV driving position, and the GLC that's more or less more crossover-ish. Here you also have a little bit more space with the middle console. And the seat itself, you sit a little bit more in the seat actually, so maybe a little bit better. But I think for BMW seats, the X3 doesn't have like the best ergonomics, but it's still good. We are really comparing good and good, definitely. In this segment here, I think ergonomics-wise, the Volvo XC60 would be the best one. And the Lexus NX is also very good as for the seat comfort. But overall, I think maybe like a slight, but just maybe a tiny advantage here for the BMW X3 from the position. And well, headroom, hardly comparable here because this one is not equipped with panoramic roof, and then we have a lot more space. But you can also get one for that. Interior overview here with the X3. Well, you feel it's not as sensual, not that modern, not like, oh, screaming out, wow, look at that, like in the Mercedes GLC. This one more drawn back, more conservative, nice brushed aluminum. Since the facelift, you also have a bigger screen here in 12.3 inch. But here the difference is with the GLC, we had this huge vertical one. Here the more horizontal approach, so really large difference indeed. The question is, what is better? What I do prefer in a way is to have a manual climate knob still with, you know, some haptic feedback and some interaction with the vehicle. As for the infotainment system here, the map is also somewhat responsive, and this is the CarPlay integration, also once again via touch, or also control it from below. Car internal map then on the middle part. In this OS 7 generation, not yet possible with CarPlay and Android Auto Maps. So you see here, it is more simple and you don't have so many possibilities like with the Mercedes. Steering wheel buttons, to me, cooler here with the BMW because you can really press them. They're individual single buttons. Yeah, I mean here, the manual climate unit, it's cool to have it, isn't it? Yeah, also here the volume knob, good to have a separate manual one still. And sound systems, here the Harman Kardon in the BMW versus the GLC sound from Burmester. The thing is, here the Harman Kardon to me, a little bit more low frequency bass intensive, also good in the surround sound, and the Burmester maybe has a little bit more clearness. So hard to say which one is better. The thing is really more what you prefer. Here we would say, der hat ein bisschen mehr Wumms. Listen and repeat. Der hat ein bisschen mehr Wumms. More like, you know, has a little bit more like bass punch. That's, you know, the approximate translation. And the other one in the Mercedes, the Burmester, more crisp clearness. So I guess it depends on the type of music you play. Lower part right here. This, you know, this can get stuck here at the beginning a little bit, so don't like it that much. But the cup holders are actually better with BMW. They hold bottles a little bit tighter. Inductive charging pad, you'll need this. You can also connect via cable, but here. But the thing is that the CarPlay or Android Auto connection is always wireless. And with the BMW, you still get a real shifting lever in the lower area. Some do definitely prefer that. And here, this is then this control knob there. Another possibility for the infotainment system. I think it's good to have it, especially while driving. And then we have this armrest here, also very well built, with more space underneath. Also nice build quality here in the rear with soft touch materials, this leatherette covering, Sensatec covering for the rear seat doors, and here with this brushed aluminum look. Wow, really cool actually. And then also the seat bench with the perforated Sensatec. So yeah, looks like a good build quality, a little bit more conservative in the styling. It's also the comparable older vehicle. As for the legroom, when I'm driving, you see also not too much space. The recess also works, so yeah, both don't have too much legroom here, I have to say. Here it would also be, I compared the GLC with the internal brother GLB, which had more space on the interior, although it's same size. The X1 is smaller than this one here, but has basically the same or maybe even a little bit more legroom. It always has to do with the packaging, and these bigger vehicles, they usually have longer hood and so on. Headroom, no problem at all, but this one again also without the panoramic roof. I can't say that any of these here has a big advantage in the rear. Middle seating, yeah, it's also a little bit cramped as for the legs, but then it's a little bit softer here. So both work for 4 tall adults, 5 just on short tracks, but no clear winner as for the rear. Now the trunk comparison, both used to be at 550 liters in capacity. The GLC now topped up 50 liters and is now a little bit larger, so 600 liters. And what about the concise thing? So here we have the slider rails on the side. The width here is actually a little bit more than 1.40 meters. That's well done. And the length is, yeah, also approximately 1.40 meters, maybe a little bit shorter. And the height is also very interesting. This is the highest point here at 73 centimeters or 29 inches. The folding mechanism here, at least when you have this one, this possibility, this is awesome, the most awesome. Look at that. I mean, wow. Immediate folding and super clean and flat, and the total length is about, yeah, what, 180 or 71 inches. Below here, by the way, a lot of space still. Look at that. Then when we switch it over to the X3, you maybe remember the height with the GLC. Let's compare it here. What do we score? This is higher at like 78 centimeters or 30 inches. So the GLC was ending here. So you have, you know, like more height here. That's very usable. Then below also some more space. Then about the total length, because we can also fold the seats here in that X3, of course, but we have to reach over. But then it's actually also fairly easy to do that. A little bit less comfortable total length. Here, yeah, I mean, here it's like also 180 or 71 inches. It depends also where it's closing. Usually it's more like here. So, yeah, more or less the same. And then here the normal length of the trunk is, yeah, a little bit shorter here as well, a little bit less than 1.40 meters. The width here is comparable indeed, a little bit more than 1.40 meters. So a little bit more height for the X3, but a little bit more length for the GLC. Overall, both are very well usable. This seems to be here more, you know, a little bit more square, especially the opening. As for the engines, main difference is that for the X3 you can get 6-cylinder petrol and diesel engines. However, this is the 4-cylinder engine, also a very big bestseller here, the 30i as rear drive or as X-Drive here with the all-wheel drive, rear wheel bias. 245 horsepower, at least in the EU spec. 258 horsepower for the 2-liter 4-cylinder in the GLC 300, also available as rear drive or all-wheel drive. And with the new generation of the GLC, they set everything on 4 cylinders, expecting a 6-cylinder diesel on the later stage. So these are the main differences. And the thing is that the acceleration figure, the GLC is a little bit quicker than the X3 in this comparable engine spec. And also the plug-in hybrids, they have a lot more range here with this C-Class or GLC platform. Welcome to Thomas's Comparison Driving Lounge. GLC versus X3, starting with the Mercedes GLC new generation. GLC 300 4MATIC, German Autobahn, acceleration onto the motorway. We'll let these two cars pass. You shall pass. And then from 45 kilometers an hour, sports mode. Let's go. 130, 150, slowly approaching 200. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And almost the plop. 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. That's enough here for now. Wind noise is actually quite okay considering this high speed, and here also with the air suspension in sports mode, it's giving me more feedback, and wow, it's surprising how upright this car is staying. So it more feels like a sedan to drive indeed. Yes, of course, put up, but really stable indeed. And that shows also this air suspension is indeed not set on a very soft note. It's rather set on a stiff note. It's still comfortable, yes, but especially in the sport mode, it rather should enable you sporty driving indeed. For more comfort, we go back here to the comfort mode in the drive select. You do not have to hit it on the screen. You can also like scroll through left and right. So that's at least possible. Responsiveness could be a little bit better. Here in the comfort mode now, comfort is definitely fine as for suspension. But again, I talked about this sometimes when I'm driving Mercedes. I love it when they have air suspension and having this very soft floaty ride. Maybe that's too soft for some others, I don't know, but for me I think it's great when having air suspension, but here rather on a stiffer note without losing comfort or something. Here now in the tunnel, Look at that ambient lighting. I mean, this is like night riding here now. Here, there. Is it too much for you, or do you love it? Just tell me in the comments. So I really find it very, very cool. Why not? And also here when you play with the temperature again, that you have the red vents then when you make it warmer, blue vents when you make it colder. Of course, also when I would have green, this the standard color, and then the more that make it colder, then it jumps from green to blue, for example. But I have set blue here to the standard color at this moment. I really like the steering input, so it's quite precise and direct. Mercedes steering inputs used to be, yes, natural, but in a way kind of slow. So you had to turn a lot until something would happen. Here they have made it a little bit more, more reaction to low degree angle, and this progressiveness I really like. So in this case then, a big difference to the previous generation. Indeed, this new generation GLC, if you compare it to the previous generation, feels definitely sportier to drive. And then of course you have that rear axle steering, which is just massive. This is also then when we start comparing to the BMW X3, the rear axle steering 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction. This is a major advantage indeed when you think about U-turns, and also where can I show you that? What we could do is actually, I mean there's a fuel station here nearby, so let me just drop it to the fuel station, then I can almost turn around in a circle or something. So it is at low speeds, it turns in the opposite direction, and for example when I get on here now, and this not like a vast array, but just when I do like this, let's take a look at that. So this guy's wondering what the hell is this guy doing there, but here it almost feels like I would be turning on standstill, so no, not going to fool the fuel station, fool the fuel, I'm not gonna fuel up. So sometimes you think like U-turns, you would say like, I can't do it with such a big SUV. Here it is actually possible. This rear axle steering is just awesome, and that BMW doesn't offer it for the X3. Might be something coming up then in an all new generation at some point or so. So rear axle steering really good. Suspension also doing a good job. There's an X5. We can head out to the motorway once more and do some more high-speed driving and see how the lane changes are at higher speeds. And now the BMW X3 in that comparison. Well, first of all, steering-wise, this is very interesting. So it used to be the other way around, but now the Mercedes GLC actually has a more direct steering. That's very interesting, isn't it? Might have also something to do with the rear axle steering option, but not only, because here also, indeed, I have to steer more in the BMW. So that's a very interesting thing, right? Isn't it? So it's also good as for steering feeling, and I also prefer it if you compare it to the BMW 3 Series, which feels to me a little bit less natural in a way. But here, I think, it's totally fine, but surprising that the Mercedes GLC has the more direct and actually sportier steering feel. Just from the whole drive itself, from being in that vehicle here, somehow the X3 feels a little bit more engaging sportier, but just, on a very subjective note, you know what I mean? So, that whole layout maybe also where Mercedes sends it more to the wow luxurious features. Here the X3 feels a little bit more engaging, but you don't have it anymore, this difference that, hey, Mercedes luxurious, BMW sporty, because the new GLC generation is also quite sportsy, so that's a very interesting thing. We have the adaptive suspension here in the BMW, that's the one they got, so both with the optional suspension. The air suspension in a way can do a little bit more with the GLC. They have set it on a sporty note. Oh, interesting wrap for that A5. They have set it on a sportier note than before, that air suspension. At the same time, you feel here, the adaptive suspension is also very good. However, due to that air suspension in the GLC, it is not less sporty, but at the same time, it is more comfortable. So also a very good ride here with the X3, no doubt about that. But you feel a little bit more what's happening on the road, whereas that air suspension in the Mercedes is evening the things out. Of course, that's also the thing about going for the options. So one of the key findings already we can say here, that when you have like a low-spec GLC versus low-spec X3, there won't be such a difference, or maybe also a little bit favored towards the X3. But when you go high-spec versus high-spec and also get all of these optional technology features that the GLC has, like rear axle steering plus the air suspension, then the GLC plays out these technology advantages in that new generation, and then it actually is a better ride than in the X3. So very interesting finding here already right now. Overall, it is also, you can also have it relaxing, even though it is engaging. The engine, of course, power spec wise, it is somewhat comparable, definitely. You maybe remember how it picked up in the sport mode in the Mercedes. That was actually pretty quick. And what we can do here is also go to the sport mode and put it here to the S shifting mode as well. So this is then in this case here like two different things you have to do. And when we just roll a little bit and then just see how responsive it is. Yeah, maybe also quite responsive, but maybe a little bit more, you know, of course, takes for the shifting down. So then bang, you get the big boost. Yeah, in a way, maybe it was a little bit smoother with the Mercedes, I would actually say. It will be very interesting soon when we head to the motorway and do the high-speed comparison, how it compares right there. I can always say both drive very, very well. It's really, really hard to pick a definite winner in here. Just again, when you think about U-turning and you know, parking in and out, there the Mercedes with that optional rear axle steering is already a winner, definitely. Here going some left and right. I mean, the funny thing is here in that very small degree, you see here, it doesn't do too much. But then when you go some left and right in this degree, then the X3 gives you a little bit more feeling for the vehicle. And although the GLC is sporty now, indeed, the thing is still that the BMW more feels connected. It's more like this. Here, I always know I am driving the vehicle and rather feel one with the vehicle. The GLC more has this, oh, this is like high-tech stuff, and this is really amazing and impressive, but it's rather like I am driven by this high-tech vehicle. You know what I mean? And that is, you can't really say like that's good and that's bad. That's more about also personal preference. Both have something. The GLC kind of transports more fascination while driving, whereas here the X3 more transport this more purist car enthusiast feeling. So, and once again, both have something unique. This is really about what is important to you. What is important to me? Maybe I know more about this decision here. I'm driving at high speed on the German Autobahn. Sport mode and S shifting mode from 50 kilometers an hour. Let's go. $150. 190. Okay, now it's also slowing up. And 200 kilometers an hour. Start a little bit earlier the acceleration. Here also lane changes at high speeds. Very well done, really stable. Also not too much wind noises considering the high speed, definitely. So also very well done. It feels also calm and collected, definitely. And the adaptive suspension here at higher speeds is more comparable than with lower speeds. That's very interesting. Here also, once again, lane change at high speed. Very good feeling for the vehicle. As for, noises and so on, maybe it was even slightly better for the Mercedes. But really interesting is that suspension-wise, when you're really at high speeds, both are more comparable. When you're here at like mid speeds and low speeds, then that air suspension of the Mercedes is playing out its advantages. So there you definitely have more comfort. So the air suspension just more adaptive, more versatile in a way here, there. Yes, there's also an adaptive suspension, and the comparison will maybe look a little bit different when the Mercedes has the base suspension. But that's what we got here, comparing high trim versus high trim. And here in the tunnel, there is some ambient lighting inside of the doors and also here towards the side area. Looking also quite cool, also in the lower middle console here. But definitely that ambient lighting of the Mercedes is no match for that here when you're driving tunnel. For some it's too much, some rather prefer it subtle, but yeah, some find it also cool. The cruise control we have here is also an adaptive one. You can set the speed and also the distance to the car in front of us being kept. Lane keeping assist here is more that, let's say, like this emergency lane keeping assist. It's not as comparable, as active as the one in the Mercedes. So then the one in the Mercedes is already, let's say, a step higher as for that elaborate lane keeping assist. Here, once again, a little bit more driver focused, and it's also a lot of fun here in this Autobahn-Ausfahrt. There's the exit of the Autobahn. Yeah, so it's very interesting, So I wasn't really quite sure what to expect when comparing these two vehicles. Indeed, both have definitely their unique strength. And I was kind of surprised how sporty the GLC is now. But here, yeah, the X3, it doesn't have this high-tech sophistication focus, but it still has this engaging drive. Once again, now in this corner here, see here I have to steer a little bit more, but very well outside the corner. All-wheel drive here also with the rear wheel bias then with the BMW. Really hard to say which one I prefer powertrain-wise. The Mercedes seems to be a little bit more efficient. So here, more than 9 liters, more towards 10 liters or more kilometers. So that's rather than, towards 20-something plus MPG. Barely 30 mpg UK, so a little bit more better advantage as for the fuel economy for the Mercedes. Which one would I take home and which one would I recommend for you today? It's going to be a tough one. Well, the thing is, from the exterior styling, I really like both from the front. The Mercedes has some cool features like the microstar pattern, but the BMW also looks very strong in the front. I really like both in the front. I think the design is overall good. But then again, towards side and the rear, I think I rather prefer the X3 for more angular styling. This is the automatic closing function, by the way, that the side mirrors also fall in the car, close itself when I go away from it. So here more round central styling for the Mercedes, and it carries over to the interior. And there, styling-wise and also ambient lighting-wise, that's what I find very lovely with the GLC, whereas the X3 is more drawn back, more conservative. So this interior of the GLC gives you more experience and more showing off effect indeed. But then again, the X3 has manual climate dials, for example. It also is more simple in a way, and both have something, You can experience more with the GLC, but you can easier use the X3 and both. Yeah, it's really tough indeed. As for the space on the interior, they are not best, they're overall, their smaller brothers, for example, would have a better packaging overall ratio. In the trunk, also comparable. I would rather say it's more rectangular with the X3. Rear legroom also quite comparable. And driving-wise, well, so far in the previous generation, I would have said, yeah, okay, the sporty experience, X3, luxurious experience, less sporty, GLC. Now the thing is that when you have this air suspension and maybe also set on the sport mode and so on, and they are sportier also from the steering and so on. So the GLC has evened this gap. It's not that this one would not be sporty anymore. So that's a major finding also from this review, from this comparison review. Technology-wise, the Mercedes leads it indeed because of that rear axle steering that makes it so much better to use parking in and out. that would be a crucial factor actually, but it's also a very cost-intensive option. And of course, when you go for a plug-in hybrid, this one will have a big pure electric range, 100 kilometers or 60 miles and so on. From the, like, how engaging it is to drive, I would say the X3 still has like a notch more when you sit down, and it's still a little bit like the X3 is like, drive me. And the GLC is a little bit more, come on, be driven. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think the thing is, do you prefer the styling on one of these, both exterior and interior? And how important is it for you to be a little bit more engaging in the drive? Or are you more focused on the technology side, where the GLC just offers more? So sometimes in these comparison reviews I struggle. Sometimes I say, okay, this is the clear winner or this is the clear winner. But today it's super tough. I wouldn't say that there is a super clear winner on either on this one here today. It's real thing is more technology focus and more like showing off, or more a little bit more conservative, more a little bit more engaging to drive. That is the crucial choice for today. And also, depending on the market, the GLC in most cases will be a couple of €1,000 more expensive, especially when you go for these technology features. So I would then also look at the pricing. So I can't decide right now which one I would take home. I think I would take maybe weeks really to decide, and then also look at the pricing. Here again, the Mercedes will be more expensive if you take these technology features. Let's take it that way. When you compare high spec versus high spec, I think the technology features for the Mercedes GLC shine. But when you go low spec versus low spec, then the difference is not that large from the technology thing, and then the X3 would have the advantage. So yeah, that's my verdict for today. Which one would you take home? Tell me in the comments, and also tune into more comparison episodes.